All right. So, Joachim Byström, CEO of Absolicon. We make parabolic solar troughs that shaped like this, and they follow the sun during the day to concentrate the sunlight to produce 160-degree hot steam and pressurized hot water. And we've been able to do this with the highest efficiency in the world, 76.4%. But what I'm here to tell you about today is that heat is half of the final energy consumption. People think that electricity is running the world, but actually electricity only 20%, transport is 30%, and burning fuel to get heat is 50%. And all the goods that we have around us, it's produced by burning fossil fuel to get heat. For example, if we take 1 liter of beer, you need to boil the beer, and you need to pasteurize and clean. So to produce 100 liters of beer, you actually burn 2 liters of diesel oil. Or if you want to produce textile, like jeans cloth, to make 1 kilo of jeans cloth, it's a heat process to dye, to wash, to dry the jeans cloth. So to make 1 kilo of jeans cloth, you actually burn 2 kilos of coal. And it's the same if you want to have this a small cup of tea. You know, if you have a tea bag like this, you probably think that tea is made with electricity. But to make 1 ton of tea, you burn 5 tons of firewood to dry the tea leaves. And all of those heat processes you can actually do with solar thermal instead of burning fossil fuel. And the European Union has been very forceful in dealing with the electricity system. So 2005, they started the emission trading system. And step by step, they have reduced CO2 allowances so that today, 1,000 terawatt hours of electricity has been transferred from high CO2 emission to low CO2 emissions. But now EU has decided on a new emission trading system, ETS2, for transport and heat. And this system plans to transit also 1,000 terawatt hour of energy, but in 10 years, instead of the electricity that was 20 years. And electricity was quite easy to transfer because you can transit from burning coal to burn gas. But when it comes to heat, today you burn gas to get heat in industry buildings in EU. But now you will transition from gas to something else. And what something else then could be? Well, if you're out standing in the summer and you can feel the summer sun heating your body, you know that there is a good source there. So Absolicon, we can take this hot summer sun and produce heat and steam up to 160 degrees to power the industries and the cities with this steam. And we can also store this heat from summer to winter in underground heat storages. And to store this heat from summer to winter in Sweden, it's actually only 12% losses storing heat from summer to winter. So we can actually run both industries and cities with solar heat. And what we have done with Absolicon is that we have started installing solar thermal on industries. We have built on the Carlsberg brewery in Thessaloniki, making steam to run the brewery. We have installed on the brewery Birra Peroni in Bari, Italy, making both steam and pressurized hot water to run the pasteurizer on the brewery. We have also installed with Colgate Palmolive, making household chemicals in Athens Greens. And last 2 weeks we installed on the tea factory in Kenya, and right now we're installing on a Coca-Cola factory in India. So we have a solution here, a proven solution, how industries actually can burn less and use solar heat instead. And we can also do the cities, because this building here, it's not heated with electricity, it's heated with district heating, like every second home in Sweden. So the heat for this building is coming from burning waste and wood chip at Värtaverken, and then hot water goes in the ground and comes up in this building for domestic hot water and heating. And what we want to say to Stockholm Exergy is, stop burning in summer, because we have all the heat that we need in summer. And then store the heat from summer to winter. And this makes it possible for you to stop burning fuel. So we are an exponential company. Absolicon is created to be able to make this change globally. So in our business idea, we don't sell the solar collector, the best in the world solar collector with 76.4%. That is not what we're selling. We're selling the robotized production line. So when we started Absolicon, we made 2 or 3 solar collectors per day, but they were the best in the world. But now we have the robotized production line that makes 1 solar collector every 6 minutes. We have already sold and delivered 1 to China. We have sold 1 in Egypt. We have sold 1 in Canada, where we're waiting for the payments to deliver them. And our vision is to deliver hundreds of robotized production lines all around the world that mass-produce parabolic troughs to produce the heat and steam that is needed to run the industries and cities without CO2 emissions. So just to summarize, so you remember now when you come home and tell your children, heat is half, electricity is only 20%, and stop burning in summer and store the solar heat from summer to winter. So solar heat that we can provide is one of the main solutions of making this heat transition from oil and coal and gas to renewable heat.
Okay, good. All right, exciting. Doesn't sound like you need any help scaling, actually, but anyway. Who wants to start on this?
I could start.
Yeah.
I pick that, or does it work?
I
now?
don't know. It depends on the tech, but lift up the handheld.
I do. Yeah, I think it's exciting with you highlighting the need, as I hear it, for communication on what heat is and how large part of the total amount that we need is. So I'm thinking, are you working with creating literacy, heat literacy, or creating an awareness of heat and what it means?
Yes, I think this saying, heat is half, it's actually my daughter who invented it. And we can see now that both the EU and in the IMF and others are using this heat is half. So that has really been a catchy thing that we've been able to get people to use. But it's a big uphill battle to make people think about something else than electricity.
Continue the battle, and I think link up with partners who could scale the message would be my...
But I think, yeah, if I can add to that, I think that it's a very good time to talk about heat, because we just got a report the other day from the European Union saying we are increasing the import of natural gas from Russia. And one of the reasons we import natural gas from Russia still is because of heating. So both to heat houses and to heat industries, as you mentioned. So to showcase a solution to that might actually help Europe on its way not only to decrease carbon emissions, but also to get safer and more secure and stop paying Putin, which it would be nice as well, I think. So I think there is a growing awareness of the challenges with heat, and ETS2 shows that. And I'm afraid actually that ETS2 will be postponed. So I think that you might need to talk to the decision makers in Brussels and tell them, don't be afraid to go with ETS2, because there are solutions to heating. So they don't sort of hesitate on going there. I think that's super important, because otherwise you won't get the market that you deserve.
Really, really interesting. Coming from the industry and really looking at the green transformation on the industry side, this is very much needed, I think. So very, very, very great to hear about your example. How different does the situation look like outside of Europe? Now we are talking about European trade schemes, we are talking about European attitudes, but the world is very, very heat and gas heavy outside of Europe as well. So seeing that you have a global solution, potentially global solution, could you please shed some light on the challenges?
When we started selling those solar fields, we focused a little on markets that had very expensive fuel. So we ended up in Kenya, for example, where they buy very expensive oil to run their industries. But in the end, we have found that Europe is actually the market when this heat transition actually can happen, because the natural gas is quite expensive and electricity is not so expensive. And there is a tradition of making investment grants to make this transition happen. If we look at the US, for example, the gas is practically free, so it's impossible to have any payback time for a heat transition. And if we look at the rest of the world, the interest rate and the payback times that they want to have in India or Africa for renewable energy, it's so short. They want to have 2-3 years payback time. And except in exceptional situations, like we are doing our project in Zimbabwe, where they pay 300 euro per megawatt hour for electricity, and where we can replace electricity used in the industry to make heat with solar heat. Then we can have 1 year payback time. But there are some special cases like this, but otherwise it will be Europe, Europe, Europe for this heat transition.
Yeah.
Do you, I mean, as a journalist in the 1990s in the UK for the Times newspaper covering the environment, and I remember in the UK they were saying we should have more district heating. It only seems now that the UK is starting to move on district heating a bit more aggressively. Is this something that other European countries should take on board? That actually, if there was more district heating, there'd be more opportunity for what you're doing, right? Because it's amazing how in Scandinavia you've had it for so long, you just think it's normal, right? But in large parts of Europe, they haven't.
But they do have it in Eastern Europe quite a lot, actually.
In Eastern
they do
Europe,
have district heating systems.
Yeah.
And they do use a lot of fossil fuels for heating. So that could be a perfect target.
And another advantage with district heating is that's a part of the city infrastructure.
Yeah.
So they are prepared to have 20 or 30 year depreciation times on the solar thermal system, because they know the city will exist for so long. If we install with a Unilever factory, sometimes they don't know the lifetime of the factory, and then they have shorter payback times. But there are in Europe more than 10,000 district heating networks, and especially Germany is investing enormous amount in district heating, because that is one of the few ways you can reduce the dependence on gas for heat. So district heating and solar district heating and heat storages saving from summer to winter. And once you build this underground heat storage, you can put in heat from several sources. You can have solar thermal, you can have electricity when the electricity is very cheap, you can use heat pumps, you can have waste heat from industry, and all this piles up in this heat storage.
Right, so you can link it all together, right?
Yes.
So it becomes an ecosystem of heat exchangers,
Yes.
from the sun all the way through heat pumps and back again.
Just like it is in the electric system, where you have wind, PV, coal power, gas power. But district heating, historically, it has been like one burner and then distributed to all the buildings. And that burner has been burning 24/7 all year around, no matter if the sun is shining outside.
Yeah. We've got 25 seconds. One last question, one quick answer. Anybody? 18 seconds now.
Yeah, I think you just building on Maria's first comment to join forces with others with your same message, to go to Brussels and give a voice to
Very quick answer, very quick answer.
We have 3 full-time lobbyists in Brussels, but that's just a percentage of the PV, the solar cell lobbyists, for example. So we have very little impact, even though we have 3 full-time employees.
Super, Joachim. Thank you very much indeed. The reason why we keep talking about these timings is that if you go over 15 minutes, you can't share it on LinkedIn. Interesting. That's another challenge. Thank you, Joachim.
Thank you.
Very interesting indeed. Get
Thank
your
you.
free gift from We Don't Have Time.